Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, today I have 3 different short stories involving paranormal hijinks that happened to real people to tell you about today, folks. The first article we'll be reading through is U.S. Army veteran reports Iraq time slip during 2011 convoy from Mosul to Balad. Let's hear about how this soldier suddenly basically had missing time, folks. Let's get into it now. A U.S. Army veteran says he experienced a disturbing lost time event during a 2011 convoy mission in Iraq while traveling from Fob, Marez, and Mosul towards Joint Base Balad, formerly known as Anaconda. The witness recalls seeing sunrise near Tikrit. Then, in what felt like a single instant, finding himself at the main gate of JBB 7 hours later. What makes the account especially compelling is that others reportedly saw him awake, alert, and conversing normally during the missing interval. Let's get into more of it now. Date 2011, location Iraq, convoy route from Fob, Marez, Mosul toward Joint Base Balad. Immediate area mentioned Tikrit. Witnesses, U.S. Army veteran identified as KW, military role, M2 gunner on an MRAP. Phenomenon, lost time, possible time slip, altered awareness, displacement sensation, duration of missing memory, approximately 7 hours, other witnesses present, driver and convoy personnel, environmental conditions, early morning sunrise near Tikrit, arrival at JBB around 1300 hours, key detail, the driver said KW appeared awake and normal during the entire period. Fob Marez was a known U.S. installation in Mosul during the Iraq War, and Joint Base Balad, previously known as LSA Anaconda, was one of the largest U.S. bases in Iraq, located near Balad, north of Baghdad. JBB was officially renamed from Anaconda to Joint Base Balad in 2008 and was handed back to Iraq control in November 2011. But now let's read the actual story. There was one time I experienced some kind of time slip, and it has always bothered me. It happened in 2011 while I was deployed in Iraq. I was serving as an M2 gunner on an MRAP, and during one mission, our convoy was traveling from Fob, Marez, and Mosul to JBB Anaconda and Balad. Depending on whether we ran into IEDs or enemy activity, that trip could take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. We were about halfway through the mission, passing Tikrit, and the sun was coming up around 0600 hours. I remember that clearly then. In an instant, we were pulling up to the main gate at JBB, and it was 1300 hours. I was shocked and confused for a second. I asked the driver if I had been awake and alert the whole time. He told me that I had been talking with him and the others on the convoy like normal. He seemed a little confused by my question and asked why I wanted to know. I just told him no reason. I would imagine he didn't want to let on that he somehow didn't remember basically talking for the entire trip. And certainly it felt like he just was in the twilight zone, folks. But let's read on with the story before we continue with this idea about what happened to him. It felt like I had blacked out for the entire second half of that mission. I have no memory of it at all. It was like I'd teleported from Tikrit to Balad in an instant. I always thought it was strange because things were usually quiet around Tikrit. The next thing I remember is being jolted back to reality by all the noise around the MRAP traffic and people talking over the radio as we arrived at JBB. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it always stayed with me because I have never experienced anything like it before or since KW. Now, it almost sounds like basically, well, KW was possessed, that he was alert during the entire time, but he doesn't remember it, folks. Perhaps some entity took control of his body, some sort of jinn or demonic entity, folks. Jinn basically being, genies or basically Arab demons. But then again, maybe it was an actual fallen angel or other demonic being that basically did this. Or maybe he was abducted, or maybe there was some other fact. Either way, he had a time slip and he just can't explain it. Let's move on to the next story, folks. 4-foot-tall walking tree creature glides across Oxford, Connecticut driveway. Let's read about this plant-like entity that reminds me of another alien encounter with this vampiric-like plant man. Let's read on, folks, and hear exactly what, the witnesses saw. A Connecticut property owner outside Oxford reported a bizarre nighttime encounter on August 3rd, 2022 while driving along a private driveway bordered by deep woodland. The witness described a thin, brown, bipedal being that looked like less like a conventional humanoid and more like a small walking tree moving with unnatural speed and near silence. This case is especially intriguing because the being appeared to have moving legs, yet seemed to glide over the driveway and yard without making contact in a normal way, which is reminiscent of other stories, folks, of gliding or almost beings that seem to basically be in our reality, but clearly, even though they're physically there, aren't completely real or basically of our reality. Let's read on. Date August 3rd, 2022. Time, approximately 10:45 p.m. Location, outside Oxford, Connecticut. Setting, private 14-acre wooded property surrounded by forest. Witnesses, M.H. Entity description, approximately 4 feet tall, very thin, brown bipedal tree-like small arms. Visible head, no visible face, no fur on or hair. Movement, extremely fast, silent leg motion compared to pedaling a bicycle. Appeared to glide. Distance, approximately 10 yards. Additional details. 2 months earlier, the witness heard an unexplained screeching sound at night while owls were calling nearby. Ooh, that sounds interesting, folks. Let's read the actual witness report now and hear the story in the witness's own words. Let's continue. I own 14 acres of woodland just outside Oxford, Connecticut, and the entire area around my property is heavily forested. On August 3rd, 2022, about 10:45 p.m., I was driving down my driveway when I saw something bizarre run out of the woods to my left. It crossed directly in front of me, then disappeared into the woods and yard of the property on the right. The creature was bipedal and stood about 4 feet tall. It was very thin, maybe about as wide as my thigh. I was only about 10 yards away, so I got a good look at it as it passed. The best way I can describe it is that it looked like a tree on legs. It had small arms, but I did not see any normal body shape. There were no visible curves, hips, shoulders, or anything that looked human. It was just straight, skinny, and brown. It had no fur or hair. It moved lightning fast and looked light as a feather, almost as if it was not even touching the ground. I did not hear any sound from it while it was running. The woods were also strangely silent. The birds and other animals were completely quiet. Like other stories, folks, it sounds truly bizarre, and like this being isn't truly here. But was it gliding, or was he just only able to catch a glimpse of this being as it ran? Now, it reminds me of other cryptids I've heard before, folks, or in particular one bizarre story, folks, but we'll discuss that after, as I said, we read the rest of the story. When it ran, it did not prance like an animal or run like a human. Its legs moved in a strange circular motion, almost like someone pedaling a bicycle. I mostly saw the back of it and a little of its right side. I did not see the front of the body or the face. I did not see a tail, ears, or any other body part that would make me think it was a normal animal or person. About 2 months before this happened, I was outside around 10 p.m. and heard 2 owls hooting back and forth. Then I heard a god-awful screeching sound. It was not a fisher cat, and it was not a screech owl. I have no idea if that sound was related to what I saw later, but it has stayed with me. I do not use drugs. I was not drinking, and I am not on any medication. I didn't know if this was an alien, but I do not know what else it could have been. I did not see any craft or lights, and I was not about to walk through the woods to look for anything after that, MH. Now, let's read this next part, folks. Are there similar reports from Connecticut? Connecticut has a long history of strange woodland legends and creature reports, including the folklore of melonheads in several western Connecticut towns and the older Gawalkis mystery accounts from Glastonbury. These are not exact matches, but they provide regional fortune context. As I said before, folks, this tree man sounds very reminiscent of one story I've read about before, folks. The Vegetable Man account, in which this hunter encountered this plant-like alien being with hypnotic eyes that hypnotized him while using talon-like fingers to draw blood from his body. The alien said, "I do not wish to harm you, I just need your help." Apparently, the blood fed this alien being, and he escaped. Then the hunter heard this loud racket, like a rocket taking off, or a ship. Like this story, folks, this entity was thin, and almost skeletally thin and alien-looking, like the way our witness describes the tree man. Not to mention the melonheads, folks, who also basically give the idea of a plant-like entity. So maybe there are and is a race of alien beings of plant entities out there. But either way, folks, we'll discuss a little more maybe later. Let's read the next story titled, Tall Dark Creature Recently Seen Fleeing Through Swamp Near Westlake, Louisiana. Let's read this possible Bigfoot encounter, folks, and hear yet how more witnesses keep encountering these beings out in the wilderness. In April 2026, a woman living near Westlake, Louisiana, reported a close encounter with a large, dark, upright figure on her swamp-bordered property in Calcasieu Parish. The sighting occurred near the Houston River and the West Fork of the Calcasieu River, an area of cypress, palmetto canals, vines, and heavy cover. Yeah, this sounds like the kind of area indeed where a Bigfoot or a swamp ape would probably be seen, folks. So let's read on about this supposed cryptid encounter and what it could possibly, have been. Report number, Befro Report dash 80099, classification Class A, date of incident April 14th, 2026, date submitted April 27th, 2026, location approximately 3 miles north of Westlake, Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, nearest known geographic reference near the Houston River and the West Fork of the Calcasieu River, time around 8 p.m., conditions clear weather near dusk, environment cypress and palmetto swamp canal, heavy vines, lizard tail plants, low water, dry patches, and dense cover. Witnesses, one primary witness. Reported entity, large, dark, upright, bipedal figure. Behavior, fled rapidly through the vines, palmettos, and waist-deep canal water. Animal reaction, household pets and neighboring animals reportedly acted uneasily in the days before the sighting. So it was like they felt that there was something out there, folks, on the property, and they didn't, I would imagine, want to go out there, folks. They were frightened to the point of being completely beside themselves, I would imagine, like other accounts of animals encountering mysterious phenomena. But let's read on now, folks. I live north of Westlake, Louisiana, in an area bordered by swamp, canal water, cypress, palmetto vines, and thick growth. My home is surrounded by this environment on 3 sides, so I am very familiar with the sounds and movement of deer, hogs, and other animals in the water and brush. On the evening of April 14th, 2026, around 8 p.m., I was working near the bulkhead behind my house. I had been placing hay bales from the upper side of the property when one of them slipped and fell down towards the swamp area below. There is a drop of about 5 to 6 feet from the rip-rap to the lower ground, so I walked roughly 50 yards away to a safer place where I could access the lower side. As I came around a fairly large tree, I suddenly saw a very large dark thing staying upright. It reacted immediately. The figure took off, crashing through vines and palmettos as it moved away from me. At first, it headed east, which would have taken it toward dry land and away from where I was standing. Then it suddenly turned northwest and crossed through the canal, moving through the water that would have been waist deep on a normal person. And let's hear exactly how high the water was on this being, folks. The creature was mostly obscured by brush and branches once it entered the water, but I could still see enough to tell it was walking on 2 legs. I could also tell by the sound of the movement in the water that it was bipedal. I have lived back here for many years. I know the difference between deer and hogs moving through the water. This was not moving like either one. There were no other witnesses with me at the time. In the days before this happened, I had noticed that the animals around the property were acting differently. My small dogs, which normally try to run toward the road or across toward a patch of trees, had begun stopping at the edge of the yard near the drop-off. They would be alert to the swamp, refuse to leave the driveway, and went to go back inside. Several neighbors with animals had noticed similar behavior. Outside cats were trying to get inside or staying under cover. The general impression was that the animals were aware of something nearby before I ever saw the figure. The weather was clear, and it was near dusk EM. Okay, does the animal behavior prove that there was indeed a Bigfoot on EM's property? The other neighbors also saw the same behavior with their own pets and, I would imagine, farm animals, folks. Or, well, let's just say that basically I'm just assuming that there were farms nearby, folks. It's a swamp, so I doubt it, but you get the idea. Anything would probably basically, if they could sense it, be wary of some large bipedal hominid like Bigfoot or a skunk ape, folks. And the fact that this took place near, well, I guess, close to where the Honey Island swamp monster was also sighted, folks. Now, it could be that the Honey Island swamp monster and this creature are one and the same, that it is indeed Bigfoot that was seen, folks. But if you know anything about the actual story of the Honey Island swamp monster, it's a little different from classic Bigfoot stories, folks. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bigfoot had a handle or basically had something to do with that legend too. Either way, it's certainly something to wonder about. Now, with the other 2 stories, folks, they also basically mention mysterious behavior and phenomena we just don't understand, like this one guy who basically just had this missing time. Was he abducted by aliens, or was it a time slip that he experienced? And what about this tree man? Was he actually an alien, like the vegetable man from the one story I told you about, folks? Until we have more information, we can just guess at it. Anyway, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure you hit the part of the bell that give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Until next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.